Hi, I'm Reg Mombassa. I'm a musician and artist, and I'm going back to school with Student Edge.
Tell us, what were you like as a teenager?
Well, I was very quiet, and I was a small, sort of sickly, nerdy, slightly swotty teenager at first. But by the time I was about 15 or 16 and I started drinking alcohol, I became more of a ratbag and paid less attention to my studies.
Now, I understand you originally came from New Zealand before you moved to Australia. What period was this? Was this after high school, beforehand?
I, I came to Australia when I was 17, so I'd just finished high school. And my parents came, so I came with them. I actually stayed behind in New Zealand for 3 months and finished high school boarding with a friend. So yeah, no, I didn't go to school in Australia, but I went to art school here.
Sure. Well, staying in New Zealand then for just a second, talking about those high school days, as we've learnt from your career with Mental as Anything and Dog Trumpet and your work for Mambo and your art exhibitions, you're more creatively minded. Sometimes those talents aren't nurtured in the classroom. Did you enjoy school? Like, were you passionate about what you were doing in the classroom?
I didn't hugely enjoy it. I mean, in some ways, a lot of the boys that were starting to grow their hair long and sort of, have different sort of political ideas kind of actually hid out in the art room at my school because, there was sort of hiding from the sort of more conservative teachers and the school prefects and all the sort of rugby boys that were sort of more kind of less tolerant. So I didn't particularly enjoy it. I went to a boys' school, a state school in Auckland called Westlake Boys, and but I enjoyed art. I mean, I'd been a very I drew very assiduously as a child, but more sort of the kind of stuff that kids do, and I really like comics and stuff. So I had the idea of being a comic artist or doing cartoons or something. But once I got to high school and started reading art books, I became really interested in painting and being more of a painter and an artist rather than a graphic artist. And so at high school I started borrowing art books in the library and copying paintings from the books. So I sort of taught myself how to paint by doing that.
Even at that early age then, you kind of saw art as the career path you wanted to go down?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I started playing music too I started playing the guitar when I was 15, and I had 3 months of piano lessons when I was 12. So I had an interest in, and then I got to like pop music when I was 13 or 14. So I had also that was kind of more my hobby. But I was definitely interested in being an artist.
Were parents or teachers, I guess, trying to dissuade you from these, or were they trying to point you down more conventional paths?
No, I was always encouraged because people noticed, teachers and my parents noticed when I was a primary school child that I had artistic talent, and I was encouraged. I mean, my mother always thought I should become a teacher and do a teaching course or something because I think she realised that making a living as an artist would be difficult. And my father was a carpenter, but he had a scholarship. He was an Irishman. He grew up in Ireland. He had a scholarship to go to art school when he was 16. But unfortunately, his father died suddenly, and Dad had to get a job, so he was apprenticed out as a carpenter. But so he did a bit of painting in his spare time and made toys and things for us. So he had that sort of interest as well.
You went to the National Art School.
Yep.
And I'm guessing you didn't have to hide out anywhere at that point. You're kind of with your people. What was that experience like to finally be at a place where this was fully nurtured?
Well, it actually was. It was very disappointing at first because I mean, as soon as I came to Australia, Mum sent me up to the National Art School to enrol. And I saw the art school, and that just looked fantastic. Oh, this is like a real art school. All the people look pretty, sort of wacky and out there. And but the art course, then you had to go to a suburban tech for the first 2 years. It was like a 5-year course, and you did the first 2 years was an introductory course, and we had to do English and lettering and stuff like that, which I found really boring. And being at a suburban tech, it was it wasn't like a proper art school, so that was actually a bit disappointing. But and I actually left after the 2 years of that, and just worked in full and part-time jobs for 3 years or so, still painting and playing music, and then I went back to art school when the Whitlam government came in, and you could get a student allowance. I think it was $43 a week, which is the same as I was getting loading trains at night down at Central, which was a job I had at the time. So I thought, oh, I'll go back to art school, and I'm really glad I did. That's where I met the Mentals, and the band started at art school. One of the good things about, I mean, you can learn a lot of stuff about art at art school, technical stuff, and particularly if you're doing, you know, ceramics or sculpture or more sort of modern art forms that, you know, require photography and video and stuff. It's a good place to learn that. But really the good thing is that you meet other people who sort of have congenial, you know, ideas, and you get inspired by the other students and by the teachers and lecturers, because a lot of them are practicing artists at art schools, so you can have that example of someone that's, you know, actually pursuing an art career.
Well, as you mentioned, some of those guys were the Mentals, and right. From this point on, you had this fantastic musical career. I'm curious, when you envisioned, you know, a career in art and music, did you imagine getting to the pinnacle of the industry, or did you think it would be more of, oh, I'll be a session guitarist, you know, I'll kind of earn a living? But I'm curious what you kind of saw as your goal as a career in music. I
mean, you know, in my life, I've never had any goals or huge desires. I just kind of, you know, I just kind of go with the flow, really. It's like, you know, I see humans are like leaves. They just blow around and the wind blows you to certain places. But so I didn't have any huge plan, or, you know, and I still don't. But again, I mean, you know, I was fortunate, you know, I mean, because that's part of the whole thing about music and art is that, you know, obviously it helps if you've got a bit of a talent and you work hard, but really the luck does come into it to some degree as to who you meet or what sort of, or the times that you're involved in. So doing music around, say, 1975, 76 was great, because that whole sort of punk sort of new wave thing was happening, and we were sort of part of that, you know, so that was historically a good time to be around. It was a pretty lively scene, you know, from 76 through to the early 80s in Sydney.
Do you feel like that's the way to learn about the music industry, is to be a part of it, to be amongst it? Can you learn anything from schooling or from education about surviving this kind of career?
Oh, you can definitely learn something from schooling and from education. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But you can also do it without formal schooling and education. I know plenty of artists and musicians that have done that. And as far as music goes, I've, you know, apart from 3 months of piano lessons when I was 12, I've had no formal training. So, you know, so I couldn't work as a session musician or play complicated stuff because I can't read music, you know. So there's a limitation there, but you can learn to express yourself without having to go through a rigid sort of educational process. But having said that, it can be very useful too.
Is there another instrument that you go, oh, you know what, I would sit down and take some time to learn this?
But, you know, I'd like to be able to play the violin or the cello, but I couldn't be bothered learning. I'm happy. I mean, a guitar is, you know, and my sort of limited skills are enough for me to express myself. Basically, I play a little bit of harmonica. I can play, you know, rudimentary keyboard stuff, but to me, that's enough, you know.
It's done the job for this.
It's done the job, and you know, it may be a limited palette, but it's sufficient for my needs.
When you look back on your teenage years, do you have any regrets about that period?
Probably the only mild regret is that I was a reckless idiot and did some foolish things, but I was fortunate I survived that and didn't come unstuck as some of my contemporaries did.
Oh, well, Reg, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
No worries.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed that video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube or find more of our stuff at studentedge.com.au.